On day 11 of Donald Trump's hush money trial, Hope Hicks, a former top aide, took the stand. Her testimony centered on past Trump scandals, including the Access Hollywood tape, in which he bragged about groping women. Prosecutors say the tape prompted Trump's efforts to silence other damaging stories, including the payments he's on trial for to keep women quiet about alleged affairs. Trump has denied the allegations, saying his former fixer, Michael Cohen, made the payments without his knowledge. On the stand, Hope Hicks suggested that she didn't believe Cohen acted alone. The trial resumes on Monday. Joining us now with his insight is host of WGN Political Report, Paul Lisnek. Hi, Paul.
Lots of political lead-ins there.
Well, why don't we start with Hope Hicks? She got emotional on the stand today, and her testimony potentially damaging for Trump.
And, you know, to be honest, getting emotional on the stand probably helps her because it likely leads the jurors to believe she's telling the truth. She doesn't want to be there. She was subpoenaed to be there. So far, you know, this case, remember what he's charged with, which is about these falsifications of business records and all that. We haven't heard very much about that at all. So people who are saying, why are we getting all of this? Again, it's paving the way for what is that ultimate crime he's being accused of, ultimately, which is that it was about manipulating the election. So what's going on here is all this testimony coming in basically saying he did all of this because he was worried about losing the election, and it wasn't about keeping Melania Trump from finding out what was going on.
Isn't it interesting, Paul, everything that has come out against the former president, and really came out during that 2016 campaign as well, would have sunk any politician in America before Trump.
That's right.
Does that just mean we are in a new permanent era of, okay, so there's an allegation that you had an affair with a porn star and that's no longer kryptonite?
I don't think so. I really think this is about Donald Trump. For reasons I can't explain, but I think it's about Donald Trump. If Donald Trump had done what Kristi Noem did, and the story came out that he shot a puppy, whatever, would people turn on him, his supporters? I would say no. So I don't think this is about being, we are in a new era of politics, certainly, in terms of what it is that being part of the, you know, Trump's followers and all that means, but would this affect, will other people follow him who will do the same kind of thing, get away with the same stuff? We'll see, but I don't think so.
Another interesting part that came out of the trial this week is the gag order, and the judge having to clarify that the gag order doesn't mean he can't testify.
So that was amazing to me because, look, I'm a lawyer, so when Trump afterwards, he always does, you know, talks to the press, gives a statement, and one of the things he said was, I can't take the stand because I'm under a gag order, so it's keeping me from speaking. And as a lawyer, and even you're non-lawyers, but you know, that's just not true, right? And so it's one thing to come on here and tell our viewers, no, nothing stops him from taking the stand and testifying. What I thought was really interesting was the judge, who clearly illustrates that he hears what's going on after court. He talked to Mr. Trump and basically said, you understand, you can testify. Your gag order only relates to comments about jurors and witnesses, and that's it. But you can testify and take the stand if you so choose.
Let's move to the protests that we're seeing on many college campuses, including here in Chicago. President Biden came out and spoke many days later, trying to, I guess, draw a line in the sand. But did that help him, or was it too little too late?
Well, people have short memories. I think it was too late, certainly in what he was doing, and some of his staff has basically said the phrase they used was he answered the call. Haven't really heard that phrase a lot, but the point is he heard that people needed him to speak, so he came out and spoke on it. Look, there's no question that any president would be in a tough spot because Israel is an ally, so we want to support Israel, and the issues that are going on here with these protests are certainly related to that, but they've taken on a new life. In other words, they've gone from demands for ceasefire, which is one thing, and Biden agrees with that as well, and all of a sudden we add on to that the anti-Semitism, which has been infiltrating into this and merging out of it, and that's the difficulty. So the president made the point the other day of saying, look, people have a right to protest, people have a right to gather, but he also said my policy on the Middle East isn't going to change. So the question is, do people understand what he's talking about is continuing to try and get hostages released, continuing to supply arms to Israel, continuing to maintain that relationship, but it doesn't mean he's also not demanding a ceasefire. But he's not the president of Israel. He's the president of the U.S., and he makes it clear any president has to respect the sovereign democracy of Israel.
That's the President Biden side of things. How do these protests impact the presumptive nominee side of his campaign?
Well, right now we're hearing I assume you mean Trump on that one, right? I mean, they're technically both presumptive nominees
Right.
at this point, right?
Nominee.
So so looking at the candidate issue right now, look, it clearly is hurting Biden. I mean, he's taking a political hit in the polls because of this. Young people who questionable whether they'll vote anyway as a group, but he's hurting certainly with them. He's not speaking out until it's late.
Right.
So he's got to do something decisive. Trump, on the other hand, is also at the microphone blaming Biden for all of this. And yet we're not seeing National Guard out there. We're seeing universities and university police and city police. This is being handled on a local level.
Let's move to City Hall
Sure.
this week, because Brandon Johnson had this scenario where you have the family of a fallen Chicago police officer saying, "We don't want you there." And then the next day, when reporters tried to ask him about not only that, but charges in the officer's murder, the mayor appeared to run from reporters. Today he joked about it. I guess I wonder from you, Paul, from a political perspective, how does this week impact Brandon Johnson?
It's not a great week for him. By the way, in fairness, the family also didn't want Governor Pritzker at the funeral.
But Governor Pritzker didn't say he was going to go after the family. Governor Pritzker immediately backed down.
Exactly.
Brandon Johnson did not.
And that's where the mistake comes in, right? In fact, they issued the mayor's office. We get a brief every night of what he's going to do the next day, and it came out, said he's going to the funeral, and then maybe 15 minutes later or something, it was corrected, saying he's not going to the funeral. It also reminded me of the time that Lori Lightfoot, when mayor, went to the, I think it was a wake for a police officer, and of course everybody just turned their backs on her and whatever. Look, mayors are in tough situations. He'll probably weather that. It's unfortunate that he's trying to show his support for the police, but when the family says they don't want you, he did the right thing by not going. How he's handling it afterwards, we'll have to see how it plays out, but it's difficult.
CPS, CTU negotiations
Yeah.
starting this week. What do you think about Mayor Brandon Johnson's role with the CTU and how that impacts
Well, of course, he
negotiations?
was with the CTU, and
Right.
so I think right now things are copacetic and they're kind of peaceful. That may change, but I think right now CTU says, look, the mayor's going to be on our side, so let's see what he comes after. On the other hand, the mayor's got to eventually go to city council and say, I know you just gave me $1.2 billion, and I know you just gave me $70 million for migrants, but now we need a great package for teachers. This may be the city council's way of saying enough is enough. So I think things are going to get hot before they remain cool.
Ready, Paul? Anything you want to promote for your Sunday show?
Well, of course I do. This Sunday, I've got Congressman Brad Schneider. We're going to talk about the Middle East situation and these protests that are going on. I also have Republican Representative Dan Ugasti coming in talking about Springfield. We didn't get to that, but lots of things the Democrats are kind of rushing through with no time to spare in Springfield. And midweek, next week on Tuesday, I'll be interviewing Jen Psaki, who, of course, was the press secretary for Biden and communications director for Obama. She's not coming on to talk about her life in politics. It's going to be a book she just wrote called Say More, and it's actually about tips to make everybody better communicators. She just uses her White House experience to make the point. So I'll focus in on the tips so our viewers can get as much out of it as they can.
Let me know if you want to share any tips with us on how to be better communicators.
I'm going to sell you the book.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Always
I think
nice
you've
talking
tried to sell
to
me your book a couple of times, come to think of it.
Assume treason, assume guilt. Well,
See how he got that
Happy
promo
weekend.
in there? Thank you, Paul.
You're an expert.
have a good weekend.